Hello students, welcome to Computer Science class. The first chapter is Typical Configuration of Computer System. So, let's see what and all we study in this chapter. Before that, let's see where we use computers. So, we use computers in various fields such as science, engineering, business, education, training, and entertainment, etc. We know that the computer works at high speed and it can handle large volume of data with great accuracy. The term computer basically includes a series of electrical and electronic circuits together to form a single unit to perform the required operations for the user. We know that computers work through an interaction between hardware and software. We know that the computer has no intelligence of its own. Thus, it cannot perform any task by itself. Thus, it requires the hardware, software, data and users to perform different operations. You have studied about the various hardware and software devices in your first PUC Computer Science class. The machine parts of this computer is known as hardware. Hardware consists of physical devices of the computer such as keyboard, monitor, printer, processor and motherboard. The program that tells the computer what to do, how to do, etc. is called software. Software consists of set of instructions. Thus, these instructions are called programs. You have already studied the C++ programs in your first PUC. The programs instructs the computer to perform the task. It also has the instruction on how to perform the task. So, the task can be adding the numbers, preparing the electricity bill, etc. Now, let's see what is data. So, data are values or raw facts. It can be some values like numbers, characters, pictures, etc. Data is sent as input to the computer. Then, this data is processed to generate some meaningful information. Now, we got to know about hardware and software and data. We know that to use the computer, we need users. So, users are people who write computer programs or those who interact with the computer. Now let's see the block diagram of the computer system. You have already learned this in first PUC, but let's have a review on this. The computer system comprises of 4 main units. The input unit, the central processing unit, that is CPU, the storage unit and the output unit. You can see the block diagram of computer. Here, the data is sent as input to the input unit, and from the input unit, the data is given to the central processing unit. Here, the processing of the data is done and it is either given to the storage unit or it is directly given to the output unit as information. The input unit will convert the data into computer understandable form, that is zeros and ones. The output unit will convert the data back to the user understandable form. The arrows here are data flows and the dotted lines are the control flow. And the next is storage unit and output unit. In storage unit, there are various storage devices and it includes secondary storage and primary storage. Now let's see input unit. The input unit interacts with the computer via input. Here the user interacts with computer via input unit. So what does the input unit do? The input unit accepts the data from the user and converts it into the form that is understood by the computer. We know that computer can only understand binary language, that is zeros and ones. The input data can be characters, words, text, sound, images, document, etc. The input is provided to the computer using input devices like keyboard, mouse, joystick, trackball, microphone, scanner, etc. Now let's see the central processing unit. We know that CPU, the central processing unit, is known as the brain of the computer. It controls, coordinates and supervises the operations of the computer. Here, the processing of input data is done. CPU consists of arithmetic logic unit and control unit. CPU also has a set of registers. These registers are for temporary storage of data, instructions, addresses, and intermediate results of calculations. Arithmetic Logic Unit, ALU. This carries out all the arithmetic and logical operations on the input data. Control Unit. As the name says, control unit controls the overall operations of the computer. That is, it checks the sequence of execution of instructions. It controls and coordinates the overall functioning of the units of computer. Now let's see the registers. Registers are high-speed storage units within the CPU, that is central processing unit, but it has very least storage capacity. Registers are not referred by their addresses. Instead, they are directly accessed and manipulated by the CPU. That is, during any instructions of the execution, CPU directly uses the registers. They are also called CPU's working memory. It is because They are used by the CPU to store data, instructions, addresses and intermediate results of processing. Now let's see storage unit. As the name says, this unit is used for storage purpose. You know the various storage devices. There are two types of memory associated with storage unit. They are primary memory and secondary memory. The primary memory is also known as main memory. The secondary memory is also known as external memory. The primary memory consists of RAM and ROM. RAM, it is random access memory. ROM, it is read-only memory. The main memory stores data, instructions, immediate results and outputs temporarily during the processing of the data. The input data is brought to the main memory before processing. The instructions required for the processing of data and any intermediate results are stored in main memory before it is stored to any output device. CPU works by taking the information that is in main memory. Now let's see secondary memory. The secondary memory is also known as external memory. It is the external memory of the computer. It stores the data, programs and the output permanently. So, in the primary memory, the data is stored temporarily, and in the secondary memory, the data is stored permanently. There are various storage devices such as magnetic disk, pen drives, SD cards, hard disks, CDs, DVDs, magnetic tapes, optical disc, etc. We can store any data in these type of storage devices. The last unit of the computer system is output unit. The output unit provides the processed data to the user. That is, the result generated after the data is processed. That is, the CPU processes all the data that is obtained from the input device. Later, the data is either stored in storage device or it is directly given to the output device or output unit. The output unit will convert the data which is in the computer understandable form to the user understandable form. That is, it can be the results generated after the data is processed. The output may be in the form of text, sound, image, document, etc. In computer, user can view the output through the monitor. Computer may also send the output to the printer or plotter for printing. If the output is in the form of sound, then the output is sent to the speaker by the computer. There are various output devices such as printer, webcam, speaker, monitor, plotter, etc. There are many other also. You had already studied about various printers also. That is, inkjet printer, dot matrix printer, laser printer, etc. and you had also studied about various other output devices also. An output device is any hardware component that convey information to one or more people in user understandable form. When I say user understandable form, we know that the computer can understand only binary language, that is zeros and ones. So, from the computer, the output is sent to the user in user understandable form. It can be either text, characters, images, music, sound, anything. So this was about the block diagram of computer system. This was about today's class. Let's continue this class in the next lesson, in the next class. And in the next class, we will see about motherboard. This was today's computer science class of 2nd PUC. Thank you.